Brahma Swayam Sakshat Sevyo Vandyo Mumukshubhi Nodvejaniya Evayam Tatvajnena Videkina.
Light up 1,000 torches, lamps. Your lamp is still burning. That is in the Deepak se Deepak song. Jnapakam ledu. One lamp lights another, keeping itself intact. But in Shastras, some people, it's a different matter. Sometimes a guru may be conservative. He may not reveal the whole lot. They are not respected. In Andhra Pradesh, there is an institution, a library that has collected the unpublished manuscripts on the cajun leaf, on the palm leaf, and handmade paper or something like that. Some of them are even 600, 700 years old. There are 32,000 volumes in it. As no one is really paying any attention to that. These manuscripts, they need paid scholars. We have to spend money. In a small way, I have given monthly allowance to 2 scholars for 2 years to bring out 1-2 books. Like that, if some citizens can sponsor research by spending money, valuable literature can be brought to light. What we need is this kind of service to that society. And before independence, the Maharajas, many princes and zamindars, rajas, they had rich libraries and some scholars also. Not all of them were good, but some of the Maharajas were really good. I saw it. That work has to be brought to light, published. There are educated scholars, well educated. If somebody gives them some money about some incentive they need, they are prepared to work. They come to me and ask, I am free, sir, I am prepared to do some work. So what I do is give them some allowance for 2 years, 24 months. Clean this book, make a correct copy of it. Some unpublished books are still there. And any subject, astronomy, astrology, music, dance, architecture, painting, sculpture, temple. And 100 subjects. We have 32,000 books. Maybe some of them would have been published, but additional copies might be there. But yet I think at least 15,000 books have never been opened. They are only preserved there. There are scholars who can decipher them, prepare correct copies. We need sponsors for that. Like that, there are many things in this. So much of work to be done there. Maharaj of Baroda had a very rich library. Then they appointed scholars to prepare fair copies, corrected, edited copies, and they publish. In a period of about 70 years, 50 years, they could publish only about 70 books. So much of time it has taken. Still so much of work is done. We should really think of doing something in that direction. Vastu is something related to astrology remotely. People are writing books on Vastu in India. None of them has ever gone deep into the original texts. They have not even heard the original text. By kind of practice, they are writing. One has to go to the original text. A book on Vastu known as Samarangana Sutradhara. Samarangana Sutradhara. That is the book. The author is King Bhoja of the 4th century. An emperor, a king, wrote that book. He has dealt with the town planning, village planning, distance from a village to town, street planning, and in such perfection. It contains about 100 chapters. Such a huge volume. No one has ever published it so far. Samarangana means Yuddha Bhumi, that is, people take it as Samarangana. Samarangana means battlefield. No, that's not what he meant. Sama, Ara, Angana. Symmetrically divided rooms, pathways, threshold, rear sight, sides. So everything is proportionally how to distribute the areas of so many requirements of a householder on the given site. That's what he meant. Most of the Vastu Pandits today, I would say 99 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 have not heard this. When I tell them, no, I don't have a copy, I would have studied it. Why don't they go to the library? Unpublished books are there. Why don't they spend some money, appoint a scholar to make a copy of it, edit it properly?
Excuse me, Swamiji, what was the name of that again? Samarangana?
Sutra Dhara. In fact, many European scholars, American scholars, have done so much of work on this unpublished literature of India in the last 200 years. Compared to their interest taken by the local people is very limited. Atharva Veda was translated and published in German in 1750. Why should they bother about it? What is it? That interest to preserve. That kind of a Western thinking is very much needed in it. They have done a lot. In the Second World War, when the war broke out in 1939, there were 28 German scholars working in India, studying ancient texts in India in various schools and universities. But the equation between the British and the German was not good. The war broke out. They were asked to vacate. Politics interfered. And in those days there were no photocopies, no Xerox copies. They have to keep the most a photograph of it. So much of work is remaining to be done. They are spending money on things, other things, without any results. But this is something, there are no funds to be spent on culture. Poverty, village development and all. Even that money is now going down the It's wasted. It's not. You don't find good results for all the money that they spend on that. On music, Bhakta Mirabai's husband, Kumbharana, he has written a treatise on music. He was a king, he was a great scholar. Unless a king is highly knowledgeable and also a scholar, how can he rule? How can he rule? How can he appreciate the greatness of a scholar who comes to him? He can't be a dummy. So kings were the most educated men, not in one subject, in 10 subjects. A musician comes, a dancer comes, a scholar comes, a poet comes, and he speaks his subject. He has to know all of them, all those subjects to some extent. So the king was totally educated in so many subjects. That is a requirement of a ruler at that time. And therefore, they authored great books. This Kumbharana's music treatise lying unpublished. The minimum it would take is 1500 pages, it would be in print. Some excerpts have been taken and printed. Only somebody gets a PhD, doctor says this, only about it, not all it. So much of work is remaining to be done. After the independence, to spend money on the ancient culture is considered infructuous, bad. Forget about it. There is problem of this four. Neither the poverty is eradicated, nor the culture is taken care of. We don't need more ashrams, and that's not, in fact, culture has to be taken care of. There is enough material, there are scholars, educated people, they don't have any encouragement. I have been doing what little I can, but very insignificant, very little. Way back in 1944-45, when I started my astrological studies all on my own, I happened to go to Tanjore. Tanjore Manuscripts Library, I found a book on Muhurta Shastra, electional astrology. You elect a moment to do something, that is called electional astrology, known as Muhurta. I found the slokas difficult to, I know the language, but in Sanskrit, the script, the letters, handwritten letters on a cadjan leaf and palm leaf. He describes the planetary position when a man goes to war on the battlefield. He says, Yatur Jayam, Yatur Bhayam. Ja and Bha are very similar in that letter. It could mean he would meet with victory, he would meet with terror, fear, Bhayam or Jayam. Bha and Ja are very close. I mean totally opposite. How to interpret this sloka? Real difficulty. It needs application, it needs work. So I made a copy of it and gave it to some other scholar. You do it. He published it. Who I am talking about, 40s. It's a very ticklish thing. In Kashi there are many books. In Andhra Pradesh there are many books. We need to employ scholars who have retired as teachers or something like that. Kavali. That is. American universities have a good collection of books from India, unpublished also. Princeton, Harvard, world-class, wonderful universities where real work goes on. And no time is wasted in those universities. Excellent libraries, very good discipline. That kind of attitude. We don't have a single university which is spending its time usefully this way. Churning out graduates, postgraduates, engineers, are like a rat race for jobs. How does it benefit the country's culture? This is necessary. Youth have to get out, they have to earn some money, they have to bring up. All that is very necessary. Being trained to be a good engineer does not mean he is being educated. He is trained to be a good engineer. But you call that education? Education is something that improves the mind. So there is so much work to be done in any field. People are thinking of Vedic universities and all that. I would say that is perfectly all right, but they should be given precedence over that also. ఎంతో పని ఉంది మన దేశంలో. In fact, I would advise all our people to come back with some savings. Retire as soon as you can afford to retire. Enough is enough. Spend your time and a little money on this aspect of serving the cultural heritage. Employ people. Start an institution where 10 retired teachers are employed on a monthly basis salary. Give them the facilities, ask them to publish books. సొంత పుస్తకం రాయడం what's the point in, suppose I become the author of some book of my own. It's not a great contribution. There are great works lying in the corners. They should be retrieved, they should be published, rather than publishing one's own. Many scholars are writing books on their own. Maybe most of them are average. Well, so much of work is not attended to. అది నేను ఎప్పటికో అప్పుడు అందరికి మనసులో ఉంటే, if most of our people have this in mind, one day it can. He has studied so many books on astrology, ancient books. He has cited so many Puranas, so much of. Yes, for him to study that, how many man hours, and has mentioned them, there is understanding and all. What did he get out of him? I think, but it's a contribution. That's substantial, real work. That attitude is necessary. If there is enough work for 1,000 scholars for 200 years. That is the amount of work waiting in India. Scholars, there are scholars. The principles of Vastu can be applied even to public buildings. Samarangana Sutradhara King Bhoja writes, a public building will not be a permanent thing if it is like this, like this, like this. When I saw the towers being pulled down, I felt very sad. Is it something wrong with the Vastu or destiny of the people? Why should this happen? Such a beautiful structure which is good for all people. Why should any evil eye be set on it? What has he achieved by destroying it? Is it not barbarism? What could happen? Permanent structure like this. Maybe when I visited the Zero in New York after the incident, then I have to go into the Vastu part because it's part of my thinking, Water on the south. Think like that. It's clearly said if there is a stream on the south of a public building, it won't stand forever. If there is water on the north of it, It's a great structure, it will remain. I mean, simple rule. You don't have to measure things up. This river huts and flows. I mean, it's a very silly observation, but whatever it is, I found it in the text. I know when Rajamahendravaram, it has river on the south. It faced lots of problems, troubles. No structure of the ancient times remained. On the south of it, the towns which have river on the north, they are prospering. That's very clear. Then what should we do if there is a river on the south? Leave 2 miles away, give the free land, make a forest of it, make gardens of it, let it be a beautiful sight to see, build your structures. Some advices like this. He spoke so much of town planning. He has given plans for a middle class society, house plan. And various categories. There is a police constable, a soldier, the general, there is a chief minister, the king, the scholar, the Brahmin. There is categories of society. By permutations and combinations, in any of these categories, you can build 14,000 houses without repeating the plan. And this book is authored by a king. So much is there to read. I have asked many scholars, why don't you go? Oh, the original copy lies in Kashi, in the library. They can go there. In Kashi there are 1,000 scholars. Some scholar in Baroda University, he has published his PhD on this book, but it's not a total translation. We have to, one day when we are able to say, I have enough to eat, I have an easy chair to sit, I have a bedroom to sleep, then what do I do with my time? That kind of attention is very necessary. My father gave lots of property for the libraries when he was young. He had enough property. But very soon there was no supervisor. Within 10 years, property was divided by scholars among themselves. Except a few books, nothing came out. Talking of 1920s. But there must be some administrator to watch. All that is necessary. If some society can take up that kind of activity here in communication with India, it is of great use. There are good foundations in India, states also, but the attention of those foundations have not been drawn to this subject. అదే మనకి భోజనం పెడతారు. It's time to eat something.